Hello everyone and welcome to the Royal Blue podcast. It is the post-Newcastle show. I'm your host Ian Croll and I've got two guests with me this evening, or this afternoon. We've got Everton's, the Echo's Everton FC reporter Chris Beesley, who's just fresh back from his trip to Newcastle. Yeah. Chris, how are things? How was your trip back?
Yeah, trip back was a lot better than the trip on the way. We had the delights of the great British railway system yesterday. Train stopping in Batley, he wasn't supposed to, for a good hour or so, and then moving on to Leeds, where we're all taken off the train and shunted onto another one, and it ended up taking about 5 hours from Lime Street. So thankfully got there, it's still decent time before kick-off, but yeah, bit of a delayed journey, but was fine coming back today, and yeah, obviously fresh to join you both here.
Also on the pod, we've got regular contributor Gav Buckland. Gav, how are things?
Well, it wasn't a 5 hour train journey yesterday. Not too bad. I'm just basking in the glory of a
point.
Don't want a better phrase.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And for those who've got an eagle eye in the background of our new studio setup, you may well notice Gav Buckland's book, Boys from the Blue Stuff.
Yes, written a couple of years ago. Follow-up may happen. And it's all about Everton's rise to 80s glory, as it says on the front cover, covering the club's history from 73 to 85, a follow-up to Money Can't Buy Us Love, which covered the club from 61 to 73. So, there may be a follow-up, you never know.
Absolutely. Well, obviously, if you're listening to this on iTunes, if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you won't be able to see. But come to our YouTube page, the Royal Blue YouTube channel, and you will be able to see it. And there's plenty of... where can you buy it, Gav?
Oh, on Amazon and the usual locations. Yeah. So
that's Boys from the Blue Stuff on Amazon. Very good read. Okay. Well, we'll come on to... Obviously, we're going to come on to what we're going to talk about. But first, just a reminder, we are live on YouTube. So get your questions in, get your opinions in. I'll put the questions to the lads, I'll put your opinions to the lads. And we'll see if we start a bit of a debate or get some agreements or disagreements going. So it is the Newcastle post show. Everton drew 1-1 with Newcastle. Chris, we'll probably start with you because you were there in Newcastle. Obviously it was on the telly, so me and Gav did get to watch it, but you did travel all the way to Newcastle.
Yes.
Just obviously poor performance really in the first half, but we managed to get a point, unlikely point. So what are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I think given the circumstances, you have to be happy with that. On the one hand, of course, it extends Everton's winless run in the Premier League, which is now an outright record in 13 matches. But I think you have to sort of take this game in isolation. It was a very good point in isolation, but certainly in the circumstances, facing a very good Newcastle United side. I know they've got quite a few injuries at the moment, which they had when they came to Goodison Park back in December, but still, as Sean Dyche would say, a top outfit, and obviously expensively assembled squad there in the Champions League this season. We saw what they did to West Ham United at the weekend, 3-1 down and then came back 4-3. I just wonder whether, because of that, maybe that's why they maybe ran out of legs a bit last night. But yeah, it was a game, as I think we were discussing before we went on air, first hour, very poor, very concerning again for Everton. Weren't at the races. It was a bad goal to concede. We'll go on to that, and didn't really look like getting into it. But for once, Sean Dyche took decisive action, a triple substitution. It's not often he does that when the game's so close. But yeah, the second one disallowed, rightly so, offside Newcastle, and then after was a real pressure penalty for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who come on at the end there and converted it for what could be a very precious point. And I think it could actually be more in terms of, like I said, yes, the winless run continues, but you've got to hope that it's some sort of watershed for Everton here, going into obviously a crucial period for the club, and obviously that massive game with Burnley, which was always going to be a must-win anyway.
Gav, obviously, we didn't expect a point based on that first half performance, but
no.
We got it, through a VAR penalty. This is something that we didn't get. So, how surprised were you that we managed to pull it back?
If you said the 60 minutes, I would have said very surprised. But from then on, I thought we got back into the game, didn't we? And we looked as though we could get something. I mean, there was a few skirmishes, wasn't it? Garner at the inside of the post, didn't he? And they were tired, and the crowd, I think, got a little bit weary. And I wouldn't say Newcastle were hanging on, but we played with the conviction that we didn't do at Bournemouth and didn't do for the first 60 minutes. And you felt that, we could get something out of the game, and we did, albeit from a rather unexpected source, really, which I'm sure we'll talk about. A VAR penalty, well, I know the referee ultimately awarded it, is a rare thing for Everton, isn't it?
It certainly is. Right, I don't know if we're having technical difficulties. People are saying my mic is low, so just bear with us for a second while I listen back to my... This is what happens when you go live. Just bear with us. I don't... Right, we're back. This is what happens.
Back in the room.
This is what happens when you go live. We must have been at a disconnection of a mic, but we're all good. Chris, did Dyche? He seems to be set on Ben Godfrey at this moment in time. Whether that's kind of a square peg in a round hole, he's not really playing in his correct position as a centre back. He seems to be happy to chop and change him to the left side of the defence or right side of the defence, whichever place we're really struggling for numbers, but. We're not really struggling for numbers because we've got full-backs on the bench. So did he get his team selection right for you to start off with?
Well, it wasn't the team I'd picked when we do our team selector. I had put Idrissa Gueye back in there in my team, but I would have started with Calvert-Lewin again, despite Beto scoring. Obviously, he changed that one. Surprising, because we all expected Vitaly Mykolenko to come back in at left back. Dyche himself had said at the Vitality Stadium, the Vitality Stadium, there on Saturday evening, he'd hinted at that anyway, that he'd overcome the illness, which he kept out of that one. So we expected Mykolenko to come back in at left back, but I mean, you'd imagine, despite the own goal, that it'd be Seamus would be retaining his place at right back. But I just wonder whether. Not so much. I mean, it might be that Dyche thinks that Godfrey's done well in these different positions now, and he wants to keep the run going for him. But I just wonder, after Coleman playing 3 games in 10 days, maybe that was some sort of bearing in it. He's 35 years of age now. I wonder whether that was just his decision to go with Godfrey again. Thought Godfrey did all right actually, and he was up against some difficult players last night, made some crucial interceptions at time. I mean, personally, I don't know why you've got a centre back playing so often in that position, and he was hardly used at all, was he? The first half of the season, I think he only just came in for that away game at Burnley, albeit did well in a back three that day. It was hardly used at all until I think was it when they went to Fulham at the end of January, and he's had that run in the side now. He said some decent performances in some ways, really struggled, but I thought he did well last night in terms of getting it right. We probably all got our own opinions. There's a couple of different positions he could have changed it. What was probably key, and when we go on to this as well, Gav and I were discussing, we thought Ashley Young did well, to be fair, and obviously he came in for Jack Garner, for Jack Harrison. So yeah, that was an interesting one, which the manager will probably feel vindicated by.
Sorry, Young played wide right in the home game, didn't he? Against Newcastle, didn't he?
Yeah. But he actually had a good game then.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I did.
Is that when Harrison played as the 10?
10, yeah. So maybe he was influenced by that. I don't
think Young had a bad game yesterday. I don't think he was great. But I don't think he was poor. Because there's been times where he's played right back and he's been really poor, giving away free kicks. He was guaranteed a yellow card early stages of the season when he was right back.
At the end of the day, he's 38 and he's bought on whatever it is these days. You got on a free, and if you get a decent performance out of him, that's a bonus, isn't it? He's probably played a lot more games than what he was expecting, possibly. And I think he was bought as left back cover, wasn't he? Really, as much as anything else. And I thought he was fine last night in the context of our performance and where we are as a team. You wouldn't say like if you were mid-table, you want Young in, but where we are and the level of his performances he's putting in, I would say I thought he was fine last night. And he obviously, as you touched on about the penalty, but I'm just wondering whether Dyche was influenced by the fact that he's seen something in Newcastle where he thinks he can play Young wide right and then just take it from there.
I mean, the attacking, from an attacking sense, like the width and everything else that goes along with that, it was just non-existent, isn't it?
It's non-existent. It was non-existent at Bournemouth as well, wasn't it?
That's part of the problem. Yeah, to be fair, like you said, that Young did well. You've been using in that role away against Manchester City as well, so maybe he sees that for certainly the big sides away from home. It's a role he can play. But yeah, I thought Jack Harrison really struggled at Bournemouth, and obviously he was bundled off the ball for a goal, and he wasn't offering much. So you say, yeah, have Jack Harrison in there to provide you with the crosses because he can do that, but unfortunately he's not been doing that in recent times. So yeah, Ashley Young had a decent shot on target towards the end when they were pushing for the equaliser, and like we say, ultimately won the penalty when he was wrestled to the ground. So I think all things being equal, it's probably a very encouraging outing for him.
I mean, whatever way you want to dress it up, Gav, it was a positive result. I'm not like let's try and be positive about it because it was surprising more than anything.
Yeah.
And we'll come on to the penalty because my heart was in my mouth when the Newcastle keeper got to answer it, but it's still 3 months without a league win. Now we're in the 4th month.
Yeah.
It's not great, is it?
Well, yeah, more than 3 months without a league win, isn't it? It's getting on to 3.5 months, isn't it?
Yeah.
So 3.5 months and 6 points deduction, and we're still not in the bottom 3. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I suppose it's typical the way things are going, that we've celebrated breaking an unwanted club record with some joy over getting a point, isn't it, really? Yeah, I agree. I mean, for 60 minutes it wasn't great, was it? I mean, let's face it, it was a continuation of the performance at Bournemouth. Maybe argue it was even worse. I know we might want to talk about their goals separately, but there wasn't a lot there. As you say, lack of creativity. We had one opportunity, I think, in the first half, was that Decore. I think I'd shot over, didn't it? But apart from that, there was nothing. And you've only got to follow social media during an Everton game to get a general understanding over what the fan base feels. And quite rightly, there was a lot of people who were very angry during that time, particularly before the break. I think after the break we come out a little bit better. But yeah, it wasn't great. And but for a penalty, what would we be saying about that last night?
Well, I'll tell you what I'd be saying, because I said it at half time, and I don't think I look stupid, but I do think that it did look like the players weren't playing for the manager in that first half, because it looked like we were kind of rolling over a little bit. And it all comes down to quality and everything else that comes with it. Did you get that from your vantage point at St James's Park, or am I going over the top?
Not
a
that
little
they weren't playing for him. They weren't very good at all. I thought. Unfortunately, I mean, two of the most consistent players this season, Branthwaite and Tarkowski, neither of them really sort of covered themselves in glory for the goal. I don't know. Tarkowski was like, as the most, the captain there, the most experienced member of that back four, he should be setting that line, and he was behind everyone else, and then the ball goes over his head. Branthwaite can't get to Isak, and then Tarkowski can't make the challenge either. So to be fair, they both sort of moved on from that in the second half. But yeah, I wouldn't say they weren't playing for him. It was just a lack of quality. You'd sort of Beto and his chaos factor up front. They said unfortunately, the only shots on target he got were both on Burn, really, and he caught him with his head and then slide into him later on. But no, I didn't get the vibe they weren't playing for the manager. It was just very poor. It was just a lack of quality, and that did change. Like I said, the game opened up after those changes, and maybe Newcastle ran out of legs, so it was very different the last 30 minutes. So yeah, it wasn't for me a case that they weren't playing for the manager. It was just a lack of quality for me. But you were looking at it, certainly going forward. You're thinking, what's the ambition here? What are they actually trying to do? Because there was hardly anything in terms of a coherent plan of how you thought they were trying to go about scoring. They just very short on the ideas front for me.
Yeah, based on this barren spell that we're in, then Gav, the more than nearly 4 months now, and the memes on social media. Does Dyche have until the end of the season, no matter what for you?
Oh yeah. Whether he goes to the end of the season is a moot point. But you can't. I'm not sure what purpose bringing somebody else in would do now. I'm not sure whether history would show whether that actually works. To be honest with you, I mean, look at Leeds a couple of years ago. We did it twice, was it?
Yeah. Well, last season,
Burnley did it when Dyche himself went in with 8 or 9 games left. I'm not sure whether facts show. History shows that it actually works. Changing your manager 7 or 8 games left, and there's lots of other reasons for that, isn't there? Who actually makes the decision.
Yeah.
You know, compensation, all that type of thing. You know, there's a whole host of non-footballing reasons why it wouldn't happen, and I think you have to just pray that it gets through to the end of the season. And within all of this, you know, we are 6 points below where we should be. Yeah. I mean, we wouldn't be talking about Dyche's future then, would we, really? Because we'd be on, 33 points? Would we be above Palace?
Even with the run that we're on?
Yeah. You know, we would not be anywhere near relegation. So I think we need to take that into account. But as it stands, I think I understand the concerns of fans, because I think we said I know you guys weren't here on Monday, that the problem is it's 12 or 13 games where actually the first 7 or 8 we could say we were a bit unlucky and actually did okay. But since then the performances have begun to deteriorate, and you know the trajectory of our performances and our results are going down, aren't they? Only but for the grace of God and the poor form of other teams elsewhere that we're holding our heads above water at the moment. And you know, we just got to hope that we can drag a couple of results out between now and the end of the season, starting off on Saturday. But I wouldn't be changing manager between now and the end of the campaign for lots of footballing and off the pitch reasons.
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons why I asked the question, and I'll ask Chris as well. But we don't know what's going on off the pitch. A lot, probably people inside the club don't know what's going on as well. So it would be very difficult to sack Dyche regardless of the form that we're in.
Well, I said on Monday, I said if the club was having like their weekly meeting now, where would Dyche and his position be on the agenda? It would probably be 4th or 5th on the agenda, wouldn't it? Really, after the ownership issue, after the sorting out the commission and the findings of the commission, after the building of Bramley Moor, Dyche should probably be the fourth item on the agenda. So he's well down the list in terms of the big decisions the club have got to make, or the their bandwidth as people, and within that, who are the club as well. So yeah, I think he'll remain a job for those reasons more than anything else. When it comes to the summer, with possible new owners, I know what new owners want to do when they come in. It may be a more tricky position for them.
Do you go along with that, Chris?
Yeah, that's sort of concur with what Gav says. I think the 8 managers in 8 years, I think if you're calling for Dyche's head now, you're part of the problem. You're in those massive problems at Everton, you're part of the problem if you're calling for Dyche's head. But the 2 worst seasons in the club's entire history in terms of equivalent points, scores, as Gav said, if it wasn't for the points deduction, don't get me wrong, an absolutely rotten run. With no hiding from that. All managers are based on the results, and this is the worst for going beyond 30 years now for Everton. And I understand that about the downwards trajectory, but it doesn't have that end of days feel like of Lampard or Benitez. I take Gav's point totally. They were unfortunate in a lot of those games, and then they have sort of tailed off in the last few. But can anybody honestly say that any manager could have done better in these circumstances over the season? Not in this run, it's a rotten run, of course. It's a record-breaking bad run. But over the season so far, is any manager going to have done better in those circumstances? What would Bielsa have done in these? I understand Sean Dyche is not everybody's cup of tea, and it's certainly not. I think I'm in a sort of privileged position, and I understand this in that Joe and I get to go to all the away games as well, and all those fans who spend their hard-earned cash travelling up and down the country to watch the Blues, and the away form's been much better this season on the whole again. But Goodison Park's the problem, because most of the fan base obviously only get to see them at Goodison. They've only won 3 times all season, so I understand how frustrating it is, and the football is attritional a lot of the time. A lot of the creative players have gone out of the club, but you can't just keep going, change the manager. I mean, who would they bring in? I heard somebody even suggest last night, I'd give it to Seamus Coleman for the rest of the season. I mean, it's desperate act. I mean, maybe it could have a reaction, maybe it would work, but that's not the way to go forward for the club. The problems with the club, along with obviously the huge losses and all the chaos off the field, is this churn of managers, eight managers in 8 years. You just can't keep doing that.
And you take it, because actually, say, I'm just trying to think here, say it happened this week. Would the manager would go into a club and think, actually, I could be 6 points worse off next week straight away? Yeah. You're not going to do it, are you? So that's another thing. And then if you do it, I'm being for 8 games, and then you get another manager then, don't you? And to come in. So lots of I think it's quite fair to say that Dyche needs to justify his position, absolutely, because 13 games without a run in the league is a terrible run, isn't it? 5 points, 6 points in that time. But it's not as easy just to say that therefore he should go, because there's lots of reasons why he should remain and will remain as Everton manager. Having said that, he got beat on Saturday. Could be an incessant.
Well,
that could be an incessant. That could be a more of an incessant conversation, mightn't it? Really, against the Burnley. I know that we'll cover that later on in the week. So it can change. But where we are, where we're sitting down here at the moment, just got a point. Is there's no reason to, and the sensible thing would be to keep him, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, well, to be continued on the Burnley one. Obviously, there's that is definitely a must win. Without a doubt.
I think that's something everybody agrees on and always have done.
Yeah, well, now that my mic and my audio is working, I can read out some comments that are coming in just basically on the conversation that we're having. So Paul Brownwick says, without a doubt, the worst football I've witnessed in 52 years of watching the Blues. Get to the end of the season and ring the changes. The ball must need medication for altitude sickness.
Yeah, I know, I get that. I mean, Dyche's game is, everybody knows about it, so it can't be a surprise, really. Yeah. But I think, I would say it has deteriorated in terms of we spoke about the key players from here, McNeil and Harrison, aren't, because we don't offer creativity through the middle. And if they're not operating effectively, then I think we struggle. And before Christmas, I think we were on that good run. I think both are playing well. And we Calvert-Lewin got a few goals, didn't he? But if they're not operating effectively and Decore's not scoring, I still don't think he looks fit, does he, Decore? Then we've got issues, haven't we?
I mean, he has been dreadful since
he has been woeful. So I think the good form of those players can disguise the sort of, the Dyche's style of play. But once the form and confidence goes, then Dyche's style of play is exposed a lot more, isn't it? Because we don't get the results. And I think that's what's happening at the moment. But I agree, but we knew what we were going to get with Dyche. I mean, that was one of the reasons we brought him, wasn't it? Bit of stability and,
One thing I thought he'd do was make us hard to beat.
Well, just defensively.
They were for the time, weren't they? But
defensively is we've been woeful, haven't we? I mean, the first goal last night, they had the second one was this lad. The first goal, that was like, we conceded under Lampard, that, wasn't it? When you see where, the two centre-halves were 10 yards apart, something like that. Yeah. Godfrey got pulled across. That was a Lampard goal, wasn't it?
It was a bad goal, whoever it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
That you would expect better off Dyche.
Yeah.
And we let's face it, we nearly conceded an own goal last night, didn't we? So we conceded an own goal.
That would have been peak Everton. Yeah.
So we last 4 games, a couple of penalties we've conceded, soft goal at Bournemouth, Slankies, an own goal, soft goal last night, nearly another own goal. And you don't expect that from a Dyche team, and and defensively we have been not as strong as what I feel we should be under Dyche. And bear in mind there that Brandtwaite's come in and has played a lot better than what we expected. I think Mikalenko's kicked on a little bit this year. Has been one of our most improved players. Pickford's been playing well in goal, but we've not been as strong as with all that. Notwithstanding all that, we've not been as strong as defensively as what we would expect. I mean, Tarkowski hasn't covered himself in glory in the last 4 or 5 games, has he, for a start?
Yeah. Although he played a crucial role in the equaliser last night in terms of he was the bouncer for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. What he did, I've done it in my moments missed today. It was almost like he was going to take the penalty. He never was, but he picked up the ball and he stood on the spot. So obviously they can't come in and scuff it. They're not going to put Dom off. To be fair, that's the one good captain thing he did.
Yeah,
there.
I did. Funny enough, he didn't see that on the TV cameras. They said on the cameras, they was looking at what I think Young was talking to the referee or something like this, and on camera, and he said on the commentary, Tarkowski's putting the ball on the spot. I thought, is he a new penalty taker?
Is he going to put the laces through this one?
Yeah. Well, that'll bring me on to my next point, but just Chris, one comment here from Simon says, we play far too narrow at times, and ultimately the transition from defence into attack is slow and extremely predictable.
Yeah, it's like kind of what Gav was just saying there about the creative outlets as well, isn't it? I mean, although he's always looks like he could do something. Dwight McNeil's kind of on the periphery of things again last night, and I see Young come in for Harrison. It is key. Like you said, you've got all these factors combining. Not like just being some big Dyche apologist, but ultimately a lot of this is down to the players again. Because there's a system. You could say Dyche football is boring, it's predictable, it's long ball, whatever. But if the players aren't playing to their potential, the drought were dried up for Decore until Dom took the penalty. They dried up for him. Harrison, McNeil not creative out wide. It's all good. Going back to using a Dyche phrase here, put it in the melting pot, and
see where it goes. In the mixer, and that's like the one thing we lack, which most clubs have, is pace.
That's the point that Sam is actually
lack of pace, isn't it? And it's quite obvious. I was watching Brentford against Man United on Saturday, and Brentford, they're only a couple of points ahead of us, are they? 3 points, something like that. And they've got pace, and if you've not got pace in the Premier League, then you're going to struggle, aren't you? And we've not only not got pace, we're slow in certain areas, and I think that's also hurting us. But that you can't give players pace.
You can't make them any quicker.
And that's a problem you just got to live with. That's the only way you can change that is your recruitment. But the lack of pace is also hurting us, I think.
Okay, well, maybe the two biggest surprises, or the one biggest surprise, that trumps the actual draw that we got, would be the fact that we got 2 VAR decisions go in our favour.
2, double.
Obviously, the offside. Yeah, both correct. Obviously, we'll come on to that. The offside and the penalty. We go 2-0 down there, Chris. The game is completely over, isn't it?
Yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you? The way it had gone, it looked pretty ominous again. When you saw it first time, I thought, oh, that's too soft again. But ultimately, it was offside. But that's what you got to do. You got to hang in there. It was the correct decision, and that's why they're able to sort of, when Newcastle's legs went towards the end to fight their way back in there with what was, when you saw the replays of the penalty for me. I know maybe Gav was a slightly different view. I mean, looked pretty emphatic to me.
I mean, Gav, the penalty, I don't think anyone kind of knew that it was a penalty. I didn't. I was just sat there, and next minute it's like they're looking at it, and then as soon as you watch that replay, you go, God, that's nailed on as an actual penalty, isn't it?
That's a very, very good question, isn't it? Because it sort of goes against the grain about what's not been awarded or has been awarded in the past. The general feeling, I think, around holding in the areas, if the ball doesn't come near you, then and the ball goes lands away from you, then you can pretty much do what you want in the penalty area and get away with it. We saw the classic example of Onana at Spurs, didn't we? Where he got the share pull, which prevented getting to the ball, and the general consensus is that there'll only be penalties awarded if you stop somebody from trying to stop them from scoring. Like, the Kulusevski one. You're comparing the Kulusevski ones to one at Brighton a couple of days later to the Spurs one against us. The Brighton one was given because it was Danny Welbeck was just about to put the ball in the net. That's why it was given. The one at Spurs wasn't given because Onana wasn't anywhere near the ball. And also as well, VAR does not tend to overrule a referee. No, they didn't overrule last night. They sent it to the screen, but doesn't tend to get involved with the on pitch on a share pull in those circumstances. But it did last night, didn't it? Yeah. Even though the ball didn't go anywhere near Young, they referred it to the referee. Now, when it went to VAR, I thought they're not going to overturn this because VAR never overturns such incidents. But it's inevitable once it's sent to the referee. Go to the screen, think even if it's Newcastle, they're going to give it here, and it's 2 minutes from the end. But that's the frustrating, isn't it? You can't win with VAR. You don't get awarded anything. You say VAR is inconsistent, and then when you do get awarded something, you still say it's inconsistent because if that's a penalty, the share pull on Onana is a penalty.
Well, they're both penalties.
They're both penalties, aren't they? They are. If that's what it is. But if anything, what was the correct decision in the way like the guidance goes around such matters and the experiences? The Onana one at Spurs was probably the correct decision because he's going nowhere near the ball, and you only give penalties when somebody, when you're stopping somebody getting to the ball. And a bit like I'm going on here a little bit, I know, but Calvert-Lewin at Leeds, remember a couple of years ago where he was just about to shoot, and he got pulled back, and the referee didn't award it, but VAR awarded it because they overturned the referee's decision. and that was the type of circumstance in which you reward it. But you don't normally award it in those circumstances last night.
Well, I'm glad you come on. I'm glad you kind of said that, because I'm going to throw conspiracy theory in here.
Right, okay.
Did we get that penalty because we didn't get the penalty against Bournemouth?
I don't think it works like that.
No.
No.
Okay, well, did we get the penalty because Ashley Young protested? Because no one else seemed to protest.
Maybe we need more of that then. Yeah, maybe Everton need to stand up for themselves more, and maybe it was a wily trick from a veteran player who's been at the top for years. I don't know if that was. I mean, my influences. Yeah, but you got to. I'm trying to think. There was another one that they didn't get. I'm trying to remember.
There's been plenty.
There was the opposite was Decore at Forest, wasn't it? Which was a similar circumstances where he was. But Decore was holding somebody, wasn't it? I think. But the obvious comparison there is Calvert-Lewin didn't do anything on Saturday, did he? Isn't that the thing?
Yeah, when the one.
Yeah.
No, he didn't, which he should have really.
Yeah, absolutely.
But can you tell? You can tell Ashley Young's played for Man United, can't you?
Oh, all day long, mate. All day long.
I mean, in a way, was it a positive thing that it was Ashley Young who was fouled? Because maybe if he wasn't fouled, he would have thought, I'm not going to appeal.
If it had been Chamiti or somebody like that, a little bit more inexperienced and wet round years and that type of stuff, possibly. And Young drew on his experience and the fact that he has been a winner and he's won lots of Premier League titles and stuff, and that shows in those moments, doesn't it, sometimes? And that possibly did make a difference.
Yeah, we need more 38-year-olds in the team, obviously.
Possibly, and. I just thought, to be honest with you, if you're Newcastle though, that done it, you'd be really having a go at him when you're afterwards.
Kicking yourself.
But I tell you what, mate, it could be a little bit of a minor turning point, a major turning point for us if it transpires that we go on a decent run now. Let's
hope it is. I mean, Chris, Eddie Howe after the game kind of argued. He's obviously going to argue for his own team, but he's suggested that they were both wrestling with each other and pulling each other, but the more you look at it, the more it is a clear foul on Ashley Young. I don't care what anyone says.
For me, he's just he's just wrestled him to the ground. Yeah, in terms of wrestling, you think was it 6 of one, half a dozen of the other? Now it's naive from there, lad. He just pulls him down. But we say the penalty itself. What a pressure kick as well from Dom. Obviously that long goalless run for him. Been unfortunate. Couple disallowed along the way. Like you said, you maybe heart in the mouth as the Brufka gets a hand on it, but got to hope it's a turning point for Dom as well as Everton.
What was the turning point in the game then, Gav? Because like we've already mentioned, 60 minutes, shocking performance really, certainly in the first half, but then we did seem to get into the game. I mean, from my point of view, I don't know where the subs obviously clearly changed the game, but also I think the fact that when Newcastle scored that second and it was disallowed, the nerves maybe started to creep in and Everton started to be, a bit more expansive in the play. And, certainly when Gomes came on the pitch, we looked at a far better proposition in the middle of the park.
Yeah, I think it's all them factors, isn't it, really? Newcastle tired. I know they had a difficult game and they got a few injuries, but they're quite obviously tired. Then the crowd gets a little bit restless, as you say. Sometimes you have and I've seen this before, if you have a VAR goal disallowed, it can have an adverse effect on you, can't it, psychologically? And then, and to be fair with Sean, Dyche has got his substitutions, some would say largely wrong this year or been ineffective. And you've seen 3 come off the bench, and you're thinking, first of all, this is a panicking measure, but actually, in the context of the game, they were all pretty much spot on. I thought better had been poor. And I think when you're trying to push the game on a little bit more, I think Garner and Gomes are going to give you a little bit more creativity, aren't they, in the park. I thought Gomes was excellent. There is a case, by the way, about whether he should start. Gomes, I think. I think if fit, and they changed it. I mean, we haven't spoken about Garner. It's for obvious thing the fates. Newcastle say the fates are working against them. When Garner hits the inside of the post, you think, it's one of them nights, isn't it? And
I thought it was in.
I did on the telly. You think that's in that, and you're thinking when it bounces out, you're thinking it could have gone anywhere. And I think that was it. Those 3. And I think when Chamiti come on, we didn't do much. It just altered the shape of the team, giving just something to think about.
It just gives the defence something else to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're thinking, as I said at the start of the pods, you're thinking we can get something here. we looked more likely to score. We were just 50-50s. We were going in for and winning them, and we were getting our blocks in, and everything we weren't doing, certainly in the first half, we were doing in the last, from 60 minutes onwards. And when you do that, it's amazing how the game can change. The momentum shift was there for all to see. And in the end, you could say, though over 90 minutes we probably didn't deserve a draw, the stats will probably bear that out. Over the last 30 minutes for the recovery we made, and the attack momentum that we had, we probably deserved to get something. And okay, the penalty was, some would say, was a bit lucky, but we've had a whole host of bad decisions go against us this year. And I think we were due one. And if you're going to get a bad decision in your favour or whatever, it's 2 minutes from the end when you get beat 1-0 and you're staring down the ball. It's not the worst, is it really?
Still another 9 minutes. When that board went up, 9 minutes stoppage.
Well, 9 minutes, I was thinking, I bet you they're thinking at Newcastle, they thought, this is it could be difficult. And you're thinking, actually, this could be working our favour.
Yeah, because they're leggy by then.
Yeah. And you're thinking, actually, this 9 minutes, rather than working for them, could be working for us.
Yeah, it was a bit.
But that context, a point is decent. Performance maybe not so, but you showed a few things at the end where you think you take that into the Burnley game, you can maybe have something to work with.
Yeah, definitely. And Chris, over the course of Dyche's managerial reign at Everton, he's kind of been criticised for his subs or lack thereof.
Yeah.
Like, as Gav has said, even when he has brought people like changes on, they just haven't made any impact. But last night he got it absolutely spot on. So he's got to have a bit of credit for that.
Yeah, I don't know if, like you said, it's whether it was luck or judgment, with like a desperate act, 3 at once, because he doesn't often do that. But yeah, it was spot on. That was the turning point in terms of like they started coming back into it, and just with James Garner's obviously a different sort of proposition in the middle there, and Calvert-Lewin, like as Gav says, whereas Beto had sort of come on and done well at Bournemouth, it was very different with him starting. I don't know. Like I said, other than sort of being a nuisance, I don't know really what he was doing there. So yeah, I mean, credit's where it's due. Maybe you should do that a bit more often. Then, as I said, rather than me just being like this staunch Dyche defender, perhaps that maybe you should be looking at the bench, and it's maybe easier said than done, given that there's a lack of options at times there. But yeah, and even like bringing Seamus on at the end there, maybe a wise move there as you just got into 90 minutes. Godfrey, I said, had sort of done well in difficult circumstances. Just bring Seamus on for his experience for stoppage time, and that's another one he did. And we mentioned Shamiti as well later on coming on and just giving them something to think about, an extra body up front. So yeah, all things being equal, I think in terms of it was one of his better nights in terms of substitutions.
Yeah, but within all that, Onana didn't look too happy, did he, when he got taken off?
Well, you keep coming on to the points that I'm going to talk about.
Great minds, yeah.
I want to talk about kind of the balance of the midfield, and this kind of centres on Onana. So obviously I'll ask you both about it. But first of all, I agree. When he went off, there was a bit of a cold. You might not have seen it up in the stands. You've obviously seen it back, but there was a cold exchange, or maybe something with Onana and Dyche. They didn't look at each other. Yeah. He just went off. First of all, what did you think of his performance? Was it good enough last night? Did he do enough?
Obviously not, because he got taken off after 60 minutes, and I thought he was ineffective at Bournemouth as well. To be fair, after I didn't see the Belgium game against England, but I believe he played quite well. Yeah, I thought he didn't do enough, did he? Whatever that entails, I'm not so sure, but he was lacklustre, and they just didn't affect the game at all, as he should be doing, as we know he's got the ability to do, and I think he fully deserved to be taken off, to be fair, and the end of, and I think if he's got any axe to grind with Dyche over the substitution, I think he's probably a bit misplaced in that belief. Because I don't think he did enough last night, and that was reflected in our performance. And two players who come on who moved the ball far quicker, were more agile around the pitch. Certainly in Garner's case, James Garner, that is. I thought he looked a different outfit, as Sean would say.
A comment on there: who's going to be happy coming off at 1-0 down?
Well, nobody is there really.
But he deserves to go off.
Absolutely.
I completely agree. Yeah. The reason I really bring this up, because I do think he was a focal point in not really the best way. So I think probably if you look at his stats, Chris, he probably wears solid.
Yeah.
he probably had quite a. I need to double check them, but he had a high accuracy pass rate, and he might have won a couple of tackles, but he didn't really affect the game as an attacking midfielder.
Yeah.
I think my point is, what does he do? What are we asking him to do? Because if he's a defensive midfielder, then really we've got a defensive midfielder in Idrissa Gueye. We don't need Onana to be there. So this all just comes down to the balance and the fact that when he went off last night and we had Idrissa Gueye, we had Garner and Gomes, that was the best I've seen in Everton midfield play for a long, long time. And it was without Onana.
Yeah, well, I just said, what in terms of what does he actually do? I actually thought he was better at Bournemouth, to be fair, especially in the first half. He was playing quite a few expansive passes. He faded like a lot of them did in the second half. But yeah, last night he wasn't in it as nowhere near as much as he can. And I think that's the big frustration with all of us, because we know what a massive talent he is. We've seen about how he ran the show at Wembley against England. Obviously set up Tielemans for his goal, and you think you're doing that on the international stage. I know it's lesser players at Everton. There's not as much talent in there, or what you ever blame it on Dyche's tactics, saying he bypasses the midfield, but still ample opportunity there for Onana to do his thing, as it were. Yeah, he's a bit different than Idrissa Gueye, isn't he? He's not just putting out fires. He's got, he can pick a pass in a way that Idrissa Gueye can't do, and just his physicality as well. He's obviously Gueye's a physical player, but he's a much smaller man than Onana, who's like colossal. Really, just combination of his intelligent passing and his huge physique. You think he should be bossing games, and it just doesn't happen far too many times. Sort of matches seem to pass him by, and that was one of the occasions last night. Yeah,
picking up on your points on there, and I think Joe made the point on the pod the other week when I was talking about Onana is part of his umbrage with Dyche is probably the position and the way Dyche wants him to play, which would be quite restrictive on him. Don't be expansive. I don't want to see you running with the ball and getting out of position. I want you to stay in position at all times, which is possibly given his age and physique, is probably doesn't suit him. Suits Garner Gueye because of his characteristics, but probably doesn't suit Onana. And if that was one of his arguments with Dyche is, well, I can do all of this, but you're actually just telling me to just do a limited, that only sort of that, but limiting what I can do because for what you see the team, I can see why you would be annoyed with that, and you could argue as a supporter that doesn't do us any favours in terms of our attack. You spoke about our attacking ability and his ability to get forward, and I think if there was a discussion with the two and he brought that up, I think that would be a fair point by Onana. They should probably say, well, you give yourself to the team, that's what you wanted to do, don't moan about it. But I think there is scope for him to be a little bit more expansive without damaging the team. But I think that probably relies on Takore being fit and being able to play. If Takore plays in front of two midfielders, if he comes back, that you've got three then, haven't you? And I can do a little bit more. But if Takore's not fit and is not moving around the pitch as well as what he should be doing, you can see why he wants Onana to sit in a little bit. And I think that also contributes to it, is that I think it's the role that he's being asked to play and that's best for him. I think a better James Garner's probably a better fit with Onana. But I can see why, like last night, where you play Garner Gueye in those circumstances, especially if you've got Ashley Young playing wise, right? Yeah, I think, but it's probably 75% Onana, 25% Dyche at the end, if you're looking at why he's not performing over the last couple of games.
I mean, just to clarify my point on when I say what does he do, I'm not slagging him off. I think he's got all the talent in the world. Yeah. What I'm trying to say is, what is his role within that midfield? So if it's a defensive midfielder, then that's fine. But we all say that we think he can become this box-to-box midfielder. We think he's got the attributes. You've talked about his physicality and everything else that goes along with it, that he can do more, and he just doesn't do that.
Well, Garner Gueye's not a defensive midfielder, is he? As such, he's a midfielder who'll sit deep, but he's not a number 6. Never has been.
Well, how's he not a defensive midfielder then?
Well, he's not a 6 where he'll sit in front of the defence and get the ball off the defence and pass it right, like play on the turn and pass it into midfield and keep things ticking over.
He's not one of them.
No, because you can't pass the ball. It's not. So compare him to say. A player who was, I've seen in the last 5 years, who played the number 6 and would do that was Fabian Delph. Who had the wherewithal to pick the ball off the defence, play on the half turn, pass into midfield, recycle possession, be good on the ball and be good with your passing. But Garner can't do that. He's not an accurate passer of the ball or a decent passer of the ball.
See, this is where we disagree, and this is where someone said Guy isn't a holding midfielder as well.
I'd say that the ghost not.
No, which is fine. This is what I didn't hold it back. I put it out there, but. For me, Guy is that holding midfield. He's a Makelele where he puts out fires, he wins the ball back, and then he doesn't do anything with it. All he needs to do with it is just pass it to someone who's a bit more creative.
Yeah, Makelele's far better player.
No,
let's face it. Who could pass the ball That's
an argument about who's the better
positioning.
Quality.
Yeah, his positioning is. When he's putting out fires,
but you don't
want a number 6 to put out fires. You want your number 8 really to put out fires around the pitch. What you want your number 6 to is basically, a bit like Rodri, like that would be a decent example. Is just to stand in front of your defence, pick the ball off your defence, and move the ball around, move the ball into midfield. Don't do anything stupid, and sense danger. And keep in position. And Garner one thing you listen, his position is not great when the opposition have got the ball. What he has been good at with Everton, and still good at to a degree, is, as you say, putting out fires, is moving out left and colliding into somebody or moving out right. But that's not a number 6 role. That's, I'd say, more of a number 8. But that's not to say, after all that, you can't give him that role. I'm just saying it's not a natural role for him, and that's possibly what you're saying is you got Garner and Onana who are both playing roles that are not natural to them, and maybe that's one of the issues.
Step in here as mediator. I was going to say part of the problem is that we're having this debate.
Yeah,
it shows you that that's a big issue. The fact that you don't know either way what's Idrissa supposed to be doing, what's Amadou Onana supposed to be doing within this team.
That's a number 6 for ages.
Yeah,
but that's when I felt when he went off the pitch, there was clear clarity on what individuals were meant to be doing in that midfield. I'll just read this comment out here from the Blues, who's a regular commentator. Where's it gone? It says, put Onana in a possession team and he dominates. We aren't a possession team, so he'll never dominate for us. But that just proves my point then we're not a possession team, so he's not really going to... His attributes and his skills aren't going to be highlighted in that team.
It's been a big fear for a long time, isn't it? No matter how much money they might end up getting for Amadou Onana, he goes on to a team with greater aspirations, great resources, and ends up becoming a real world-class midfielder. And you think, well, why didn't he do that for Everton?
Yeah. So what we're saying is, going back to the original point, isn't it? It's the style of the Dyche style of play, the limitations of colleagues, all contributed towards Onana's
downfall.
Not downfall. But, not being as effective as what it should be. But actually, one of the reasons also why he's not effective as what he should be is actually within all that he's not. I won't say not doing his best, but he's not applying himself as well as he should be doing as a footballer.
Which is why you said earlier on. I know you didn't watch it, and I didn't, but I did see some of the highlights. Yeah. He was man of the match for Belgium.
Yeah,
and he's surrounded by quality players who he can, do his usual stuff, win the ball back, maybe advance a little bit, but just pass it sideways, 5 or 6 yards.
It doesn't surprise me. See when he come on to Manchester City, when you get beaten, Manchester City come off for the last half hour there, didn't he? And I don't even think he was fit, but I don't know whether because it was Manchester City or like City had taken the foot off the gas and just wanted to, just to manage the game. He looked class then. And that's the issue for him. But in the here and now, where we are in the Premier League at the moment, can we afford to have that type of attitude?
No, look, I'm not slagging him off one little bit. No. I think he's a quality player, and unfortunately, he's probably going to leave this summer, and he's going to go on to, a team full of quality players, and his attributes and skills are going to shine through
all day long.
And that's what's going to happen. I just, we'll move on from this point. I just felt that. It was plain for everyone to see that, it wasn't just because he went off, but he went off and our midfield looked so much more as an attacking threat, which, Andre Gomes came on the pitch, technically gifted, really, really fantastic 15, 20 minutes that he had.
was like at Spurs, wasn't it? I don't think anybody's played better as an outfielder for Everton this season than Andre Gomes' performance at Spurs, where I just thought he was superb. He played beautifully at Spurs for an hour, and he played well last night. And to me, whether Burnley's the game, I don't know, but you have to be saying it's all about balance. Would you give him a shirt and the play you would drop there would not be either Garner, Gay or Onana or James Garner? Would you drop the core and play more like a 4-3-3, 4-5-1, where you've got your two wide players as McNeil and Harrison, and then have, like, say, I'm just picking names out of the hat here, Garner, Onana and Gomes as three in the midfield, and maybe use that to play Onana a little bit more forward, and because the Doucouré's offering nothing to me. He still doesn't look fit. He did very little again last night, like he has done since he come back. So I was expecting to see him a lot more fit and a lot more effective, that word again, since the break, but he hasn't. And I'm just wondering whether, in terms of, we've not got many options to change things around. It is one of those options actually to get Gomes on the pitch in the centre midfield, but having two other midfielders with him, and maybe that's something to look at.
I mean, in the past I've advocated for Onana to be pushed further forward, in not necessarily a Fellaini role, but maybe a little bit similar to that.
Yeah, Dyche has sort of poo-pooed that in the past when asked. That was maybe a year ago or so. He spoke about that, where he thinks that's any sort of different now. Like, as he seems more likely to do what Gav said and use Andre Gomes in that role. I mean, I can certainly see where you're coming from in terms of it's certainly he should be better in the air. I mean, he scored a head against Burnley in the other game. We're in danger of making this into a Burnley preview, and we've probably got another pod on that.
It's relevant to last night, though, isn't it?
But yeah,
absolutely.
definitely, yeah. I don't know. I don't know if he's inclined to do that with him, but he needs to be doing better. I think we're all agreed on that.
Yeah, not as like a 4-4-1-1 where he's playing behind Calvert-Lewin or Beto, based on last night it was Calvert-Lewin, but like as the more advanced midfielder, to get in and around the box, like a number 8 there, I say, is to do that a little bit more and give him a little bit more freedom around the pitch, which maybe he hasn't got at the moment. And I think there's a case for doing that, to be honest with you, because it's not working, is it? Really, the Doucouré and another striker is not working at the moment. So let's have a look at changing it, perhaps.
Well, that's part of the problem, isn't it? This winless run.
Okay, well, we can't not finish the podcast without talking about Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Chris.
Yeah.
He has broken his goal drought, which was in double figures.
Well, it's over 20 games, wasn't it? Was it 23 in the end?
Yeah, vital penalty.
Yeah.
We talked about it was a definite penalty, but he looked a bit nervous when he was stepping up. He was breathing quite heavily, I thought, and I just thought,
would anyone not be nervous in those?
No, I'm not. Listen. I was probably more nervous than Calvert-Lewin was. But yeah, regardless whether the keeper gets a hand to it, it's in the back of the net. Is this a turning point in his season?
It can be, and I certainly hope so. There's a few people around us in the press box who, certainly those of Everton affiliation, were struggling to look. I was looking, I was all right, but some of the others, and there were even a few, again, like I said, not from the Echo. We were too busy typing it up, letting everyone know on the live blog, but there were a few cheers and a few people on their feet when that one went. And it was a massive moment. Like I said, I think he got it right in terms of his execution of the kick, going for power in those circumstances. And like you said, the keeper got a hand to it. It wasn't enough. Hopefully, it can be a turning point, because it's not. He's been feeding on scraps for a long time. He's one of those players, Gav's often said, doesn't he? He struggles to create something out of nothing. He needs to have that service to him. If that's not coming, he is going to struggle. He was the last Everton player, of course, to even convert a penalty back on 1st of May last year, at Leicester City. I mean, what a day that was. Obviously, that could have gone one way or the other. Obviously, Jordan Pickford saved one at the other end there. It could have been 3-1, so that was a huge turning point. Let's hope so, because, He's had the injuries the previous 2 years. I mean, he didn't even play 23 games either of the last 2 seasons, so he's kept himself fit. He's been desperately unlucky. It was a bit of a statistical anomaly, really, because he had the 2 goals against Tottenham, home and away, disallowed. But, you know, it's only natural as a number 9. It will play on your mind the longer you go without having a goal being credited to you. So let's hope so, because he can be patchy, he can be sort of streaky and have those purple patches. So let's hope this is a start, bit of a run of goals for him, because they really do need it.
I mean, he's been a fantastic penalty taker for us, Gav. I mean, it wasn't the best penalty, but like I say, it went in, so hopefully that's sure, got to breed confidence for him now.
You would hope so. I don't know. I thought the goalie'd say, no, he's in the air. You had the clunk on the gloves, didn't you? You'd expect to see the ball reappear back into the penalty.
It was a big hand, wasn't it?
Yeah. I did. Like, I was laughing this morning when like when you're reading it and listening to stuff and whatever, and people saying, he's had a lot of bottle to take that penalty, and I was thinking Roy Keane will just turn around and say it's his job, and which ultimately it is. I mean,
it was a good opportunity for him, wasn't it, to break the duck?
Absolutely, that's what I agree. The counter to that, it's nerve-wracking. We're thinking, I'm going to have this.
Yeah,
it's a great opportunity. The only thing I'd say is, and you know what our work is, if you had another couple of games without a goal, it'd be like Calvert-Lewin's gone 25 games without scoring an open play. That'll be the next stat. But
you've already said it.
Yeah, Chris is good point. See his critic, and this is one of the things I criticise Calvert-Lewin for, is a streaky player. I mean, he had the good run in the autumn, and he was that 5-5 or something like that when he came back in, and his career is one of scoring 5 or 6 goals in 5 or 6 games and then not scoring for 10-15 games. So hopefully what you're saying is right, and this
hat-trick against Burnley. There we go, we're previewing Burnley again, and
this may be the start, hopefully, of a decent run for him, because that's what all the stats show, that's what will happen. He ends a long streak without scoring and then has a streak with scoring, so hopefully that'll be a good omen for the next few games.
Yeah, absolutely. Fingers crossed. Obviously Burnley next, but we will preview that.
I thought we'd done that already, to be fair,
Yeah, on Friday. Just dead quick, sorry, Pickford, very good last night, wasn't he? Kept us in.
That's really good, didn't it? That we got through all that with him, and didn't mention. Yeah, I think it showed great maturity from Jordan Pickford, because I mean, I'm sure you picked it up on the telly. Absolute pantomime stuff. Here we go. We'll have another hour on this now. from Newcastle fans. I mean, even the stadium announced before the kick-off, they did the Everton team, and it was Jordan Pickford. He deliberately left a big pause before he went on to the next player, just to get all those big boos in early. 2 grown men dressed as dinosaurs behind the goal.
I think that's good. That's funny. I like that. That's good. That's funny.
Yeah. But what he did, in the past, he's let that get to him.
The 3-2 game
when that infamous game when Everton threw it. I was at St James's Park that day as well. Yeah, so he come full circle from that, held his nerve. Saves were great. We know he's a great world-class shot stopper, but obviously there's questions about his footwork. They were doing their best every time he kicked it. They were making out he'd shanked it or something. They were like, whatever. He wasn't. His footwork was spot on, and had the last laugh on him. So much so that he's even able to do one of his catches where he goes to the ground at the end of stoppage time and have a smile on his face.
I think he did the punch thing when he came off the pitch as well. Somebody said there's a couple of things. And we are going on another pod here. Like, there's a couple of things. Like, did we see man of the match? Was it the official?
Yeah.
Where they announced that in the stadium as a moot point. And I know it's just a few things that were retweeted from Newcastle fans this morning saying, "Can we stop this dinosaur stuff?" It's just like,
Although you've said you're
motivating
all for
it. Yeah. I'm all for it. I think it's a good laugh, and the one thing we miss in football, I think it's a good laugh. I think it's funny. You know what I mean? But I'm at a different age, aren't I? I just think I'd laugh about that. We take ourselves too seriously, and we're a bit too sensitive to these type of things, aren't we? I know that's a good laugh. Not wrong with that.
Wasn't Gav in the T-Rex suit, was it?
So we need a big T-Rex suit these days. I think we get a little bit obsessed by that. But fair play, I thought it was excellent. Those couple of saves made in the first half kept us in the game, didn't they? Effectively, because it could have been 2 or 3 down if it wasn't for his. And also as well, by the way, we've forgotten about Mikalenko's goal line clearance in the second half.
Yeah.
All these in the moments missed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that's a good place to leave it. That's all for today's show. Please remember to like, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook as well, Everton FC, Liverpool Echo. And also remember to give Chris's interview with Derek Manfield a watch.
Yes,
It's,
we've got another one coming up. I won't say who it is yet, but yeah, we've got another one in the pipeline now. So,
yeah, it's been really well received, hasn't it, Chris? The Derek Manfield
Excellent. Both.
interview.
Thank you.
He was well worth the hour, wasn't he? And like I said, Chris is, it's a series of Goodison Park, my home, so there's plenty more to come. For that, so we're going to be back Friday. I'm not too sure what time we're going to be back, but Chris is probably going to be you, Joe, and maybe someone else for Friday.
Yeah.
Friday morning, Friday afternoon to preview the Burnley show. I've been Ian Croll, been joined by Chris Beesley and Gav Buckland, and this has been the Royal Blue Podcast.